Hello everyone and welcome to the Brightworks. This should be a shorter video covering the bombing essentials for Cortex as opposed to Armada. I've skipped through the first few minutes of this here because it's essentially the same as the video I made about Armada bombing. If you care for an explanation on the strategy behind picking a spot and why here on this map and all that, go check out that video because I go more into depth on that here. This is just where the build order diverges from that that video, so this is where we're going to pick off. You can see what I have here is 3 mexes, and the order that I built them in was 2 mexes, followed by 6 of these windmills. The third mex went up, and then I built this solar battery. Sorry, not a solar battery, just a regular battery, the energy storage. And then I threw up a bot lab, and that's the last thing I just did. And you can see we're a minute and 49 seconds into this game, so that gives you kind of some perspective on where in this game that we're happening. This is all that glitters, by the way, just in case you're curious what map this is. And I'm going to be showing you how to transition from here into bombing. This is probably the most common way to do it, although you can technically do it with vehicles. Bots is just the best way because it's cheaper, and that's really all there is to it. But yeah, so let's unpause here and we'll get right into it. Well, I guess I should show you what units I'm going to queue. In the last tutorial, the Armada version of this tutorial, we made a construction bot followed by a grave robber followed by another construction bot. I'm going to show you that you can in fact omit that second construction bot and do this entire build with just one construction bot. So we're going to do that here. The commander, of course, should be rallied to build with this factory. And we're going to unpause and we're going to watch how this unfolds. Pause. There we go. Again, helpful if you need to know that command, so you need to go to the bathroom or somebody is disconnected. There you go. Now the constructor is going to come out, and the first thing we're going to do is throw up 4 of these construction turrets. You can drag this over here, make that a little shorter. And then the grave robber is going to come out, and that's going to go over here. Now I am going to do something that I forgot to do in the other demo, which is build a metal storage. This will be very helpful because later on you're going to want it when you tech out of all this. You're going to need that in order to not overflow a bunch of your metal to your teammates. Not that that's a bad thing in certain circumstances, but it can definitely be the wrong decision when you need every metal you can get. And indeed for this build order, you absolutely do. So we're going to be building up 4 of these construction turrets, and then we're going to be building some advanced solar collectors. For Cortex, just like Armada, we're going to go for 4 of them because I think wind energy is going to be sufficient on this map. So let's move the commander over here and let's have him build 4 more of these wind turbines, and hopefully that's going to be sufficient enough to fuel our construction here. Yes, I'm aware. As long as you're not stalling, using all of your resources, that's a good problem. If you're overflowing resources, I mean, unless your teammates are asking for them specifically, we're actually going to queue up 2 more here. Unless your teammates are asking for them specifically, you typically don't want to be overflowing resources without some reason. We're not going to reclaim that. We're going to reclaim the bot lab after he finishes this. These are going to help reclaim the bot lab as well. And then our commander is basically going to go... Well, I guess he can help build this. It's sort of a balancing act, right? You have to get your commander away far enough that he doesn't get in the way, and when you explode it, it doesn't cause problems for you. But at the same time, you don't want to just waste all that build power that he has. It's a good 300 build power. It's 1.5 of these turrets, just in your commander alone. Now you can see we are going to start stalling on metal, which means that I'm going to move my commander away. And this is going to get us up to 300. We're really aiming for 500, more or less. The wind will kind of go up and down, so we're pretty close to that threshold. The next thing here is we are going to build our aircraft plant. Commander is far enough away. Just have him keep walking just in case. And then you send the grave robber in.
Your team is down to its last
And of course,
commander.
that's why there's a AI sitting in the corner over there. He's to make sure that we don't lose the game immediately. In a team game, of course, this isn't a problem because you're going to have you're going to have enough teammates that sacrificing one of your commanders is not a problem. Now we're going to build this air lab, and in the other tutorial, I built 3 scouts and 10 bombers. In this tutorial, I'm going to build 3 scouts and 8 bombers. We're going to put them over here. And do remember to turn off that land configuration. That's an important note. And so we've eaten up our commander. And now what we can do, use this guy to help pump these bombers out. Let me explain, actually, before I get into that, let me explain why the Cortex bombers are different than the Armada bombers. So the Armada bombers drop 6 bombs, I believe it is. You can see that these drop 5, but their AoE is a lot higher. So these actually have a much easier time bombing big, clumps of things like the windmills, the construction, or the metal extractors, the construction turrets, the advanced solars too. These are much better at targeting structures, and so you need less of them. So the rule of thumb for Armada was you basically need a buddy system, right? You need to send 2 of these bombers to take out facilities, like 2 of these bombers to kill these windmills here. And actually, don't want to actually blow up my own windmills. But you need 2 of those bombers to kill the windmills, 2 to kill the metal extractors, sometimes 3 to kill the construction turrets. I'm gonna pause once more, just so I can talk about this stuff without the game time progressing. But you can see I was much more efficient. If you go and compare this to the other game, I believe that one was like 7.5 minutes. So I was actually slightly more efficient this time around, getting these bombers up. You see, you can really crank these things out super fast. There's probably even, a little bit here and there that I could tune up even better to make it even faster. Really get these early bombers out as quick as you can. At a speed like this, I mean, if you're under 7 minutes, you are probably beating most of the anti-air turrets that are going to be up. Unless somebody is like really, aware of your strategies, like they recognize you. It's not impossible for that to happen. Bar's still a pretty small community, so that's one of the nice things about this community. But it can also be to your downfall if someone knows that you regularly bomb. They might say, "Hey, get some anti-air up," so and so. They're well known for bombing. Indeed, I've gained that reputation, except for my naval expertise rather than my aerial expertise. But we're all constantly improving, so that's part of the fun of it. Anywho, aside from people who are extremely paranoid and have already thrown up anti-air all over the place, there's likely not going to be very much anti-air for you to deal with here at the beginning, which is great, but you have to know how to take advantage of that. So same exact concept for the Cortex side as the Armada side. Say, the line essentially is like this per se. And, this freak here has like a crazy amount of anti-air for some reason. Maybe one of these other players was harassing. They were like sending shurikens up, these little stun paralyzer drones. Maybe they're sending those up. So there's like anti-air in the middle of this field. Same idea as the Armada. You're gonna right click and then drag until you get the spacing on these that you want. So I'm kind of just pulling these until eventually they're in a spot that I like, where I know that they're not going to collide with this anti-air, and then sending them all the way back. And you're going to do the same thing. The bombers, you're going to do also the same thing. You want to move them up to like some sort of neutral position, some ready position, somewhere along on the map, before eventually you break them into groups, little strike groups, and send them off to go bomb whatever you found with your scouts. So say you found wind farms from one player, say you found one player with a bunch of construction turrets, somebody else has a factory that's further up or something, all good targets for you to start bombing. And keep in mind when you're bombing as well, you can bomb the things at the front, like there will be a player that starts right here, as well as one that starts right here. Never mind that ping. One here, one here. Any of these bases that you're flying over, say you take your bombers and you fly them over this base because you're trying to bomb eco back here. You can drop bombs on this base. You can blow up this base, and just as you're flying over it, and then you can still move them towards the space, and they'll be recharged by the time they get over there. That's important to note, to really crank out the maximum efficiency of your bombers. Now, as Cortex, that's where that's the same as the Armada. So if you've seen the last video, that should be very familiar. The difference here is your choices after you've bombed. You actually have a slightly different one. You can tech like in the other video. You now have an economy that's somewhat strong, with your advanced solars and your windmills and all that. You have enough of an economy to tech up to tier 2 bots. And like in the other video, you will also want to share with your teammates. Get them their T2 bots and start upgrading everyone around you. If everyone is upgrading their economies, then your whole team is going to be a lot stronger. And they might not give you credit for it, but you'll know in your heart that you're the reason your team won. It's because they were all rocking a bomb economy because you were good on getting T2 units up quickly. It's not uncommon to see T2 units up before the 10 or 11 minute mark, and indeed you can do that and still crank out a bunch of bombers in the same build order. The way you do that, of course, being you take this guy and you select your advanced bot lab and you put it down. When you run out of metal, the first thing you eat is your aircraft plant, which is 840 metal. That all goes into the T2 factory. And then what you do is you eat up your metal storage, which is another 340 metal. And that'll get you pretty close to what you need to be at to build this factory. After that, you can also build some of these energy converters. And those will start working away on the energy that you're accessing, because you're not going to be able to you're not going to have enough metal to spend all your energy. So you're going to have some excess energy that you can turn into metal to help that process along a little faster. And all that being said, if you do that all well and you control that properly, you can get T2 units out really quickly, especially if you have your teammates buy units from you. We're going to unpause here, and we're going to let these units do their thing. So now, see, these guys are going to fly around, and they're going to avoid that big field of anti-air here. All of our bombers are going to go here. And let's say, like, this guy finds a big windmill farm right here. He's built 20 windmills all in one big area. We're going to hit A and right-click and drag all over that area. And then these guys are just going to blanket that field in tons of bombs. All those bombs. And now you can keep moving them backwards. And then bomb this guy's eco. Say his eco's all in this area over here. Bam. You've now taken out 2 players' eco, at which point you can split your bombers, put these guys over here, pull these guys over this way. Maybe this guy just harasses this guy over here or something. Remember, you need less bombers for Cortex versus Armada, so you can really split these guys up really well. One bomber is sufficient to do quite a lot of damage to a base. You can see their explosion is actually a lot larger. If you're fresh off the other video, it'll be noticeable to you. Just how much more powerful these bombs are. But anyway, you're gonna direct your bombers around. You're gonna try and be as efficient as you can with them, and eventually they're gonna get shut down either by anti-air or people get fighters up or whatever it is. However they deal with it, eventually your bombers are gonna go down. But you have the luxury of being in the back line, so what that means is that you can now go for T2, which we talked about. Or your other option is to start making these shurikens. Now, if you've sent bombers out, you have to remember that means people are going to start building anti-air. It's like a reflex, right? Like you just, someone bombs your base, you're going to put up a bunch of anti-air to prevent that in the future, right? That makes sense. But if you want to transition to shurikens after this, you have to be very careful about the front lines, because they're also going to build anti-air to protect from your bombers going in and destroying all of them. Speaking of destroying all of them, don't be afraid to send your bombers into these little nooks and crannies, but just make sure that you're kind of controlling them manually to make sure that they bomb along like pathways, big areas where it makes sense to bomb, coming from the side here and then bomb along this front here. Any of these straight lines are good ideas for bombing. Just because if they have defenses there, all your bombs are going to land on something. So anyway, That's your other option, is you can go for these paralyzer drones, which Cortex does not have, or sorry, rather Armada does not have. Armada has gunships, and gunships are interesting. They really are, but they are so outclassed by the anti-aircraft that can shoot them down that it's almost impossible to get a good enough amount of value out of them before they're destroyed and their value is in the dirt. So that's why I don't recommend you go gunships as Armada, but you can go paralyzers as Cortex, just because you can crank out so many more paralyzers. So now you see, we're at 10 minutes 8 seconds. That probably could have been faster because I wasn't really paying attention for a while there. And we can start pumping out these T2 units. We don't have enough metal for them, but that's okay. We can eat this metal storage because we don't need it. We're way excess metal. And that'll be fine. And then, get this guy back here and he'll start making metal energy converters rather. This guy, we'll probably keep this one for ourselves. He'll go, do the same sort of eco build that I suggest for everyone. Upgrade 3 mexes, put down your energy converter, put down your first fusion reactor, put down your second energy converter, put down your second fusion reactor, put down 2 more energy converters, and then start building APHIS, advanced fusions. That's kind of the bread and butter. Like if you get that's enough energy production and energy converters to start building your eco up, and eventually you're going to be, this will jump you from this first energy reactor, or this first energy converter will jump you from, whatever you'll be at, maybe I think it would be 15 to like 20 or 25 or something like that, and then you build the APHIS, and that's going to keep it online 24/7. So then you'll be up to maybe 30. Your second energy converter goes down, then you're up to 35, maybe 40. Second fusion goes down, and then your next 2 energy converters, and then eventually you're up to like 55, 60 metal per second off of just this little setup here. And that's well and away enough to start thinking about building APHIS or start pumping out T2 units. That's sort of 50 metal per second is kind of the sweet spot for where you want to be, or at least what you want to get to when you're aiming to pump out T2 units. But you can see, these metal extractors. I just want to show how much metal this is going to produce here as soon as this finishes up anytime now. But you can see, these energy converters working full time as well, because, they are 7.3 metal as opposed to 1.8. So like just a huge bonus there. 714. You're gonna be looking at like 20 metal just from these 3 extractors, which is enough to build your first energy converter, and then your energy converter will help you deal with all this waste energy. Anyways, that's a pretty comprehensive look. I think that covers basically everything I wanted to talk about for the Cortex faction. Very similar to the other one, which shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, they're balanced, right? Like it's not, this isn't some new concept that these 2 factions are balanced against each other, but they have slightly different rules, and it's important to know that when you're dealing with Cortex versus Armada bombers, the Cortex bombers are a lot more dangerous. And so if you see Cortex bombers, you need to be a little bit more afraid than the Armada bombers. They're just a little bit easier to use and a little bit harder to kill, and overall you want to deal with them a little bit quicker. Anyways, that's all, and I do hope you guys appreciate this. I hope this helps a lot of the newer players get really comfortable with Cortex and Armada, so I definitely recommend checking out the other video I did on that. I've also done a naval video on Armada specifically, and I don't know if I'll do a Cortex video for naval because they're very similar. Not a whole lot of practical differences between the Navy, just sort of some slightly different units, but they basically fill the same roles. That being said, if there's enough interest, I'd be happy to do that. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this helps, and have a good one.